white police chief, anything important is white.
Gregory is uniquely placed to provide historical perspective. He was shot in the leg in the 1965 Los Angeles Watts riots, but he hasn't used violence to project his message. He's used comedy. Gregory was a headline performer.
When America goes to war, they don't send no comics. They send some folks that barely can read and write. What?
At 81 years old and a father to 10, Dick Gregory reflects on his past and the legacy his children will inherit. We spoke in Washington, D.C. You got into the civil rights struggle early on. Could you have imagined, had I whispered into the ears of your 20-something-year-old self, that about 6 decades later, we'd still be having these same arguments?
Let me answer it this way. 120 years ago, if you was at a meeting and said one day horses will be obsolete, they'd put you in the mental hospital. It's the same. You couldn't see this. You couldn't see this, especially black folks couldn't see it. We're the only group of people that had the struggle, the viciousness we went through. And we opt for education over liberation. When George Washington was fighting the British, it wasn't so he could build a college, it's liberate. So all the black folks you see in America has never been liberated. You get a white cop, can kill my mama, my daddy, my children, but in the news media, if you check, a white cop ain't never hit my car, not my automobile.
But when you look back, and I've been looking back because of the 50th anniversary of the Poor People's Campaign.
Yeah.
I have seen a lot of black and white film and a handsome, skinny young Dick Gregory in a white shirt and a skinny black tie.
That was me.
Talking about hope, about a belief in the future, about a belief in this country being willing to release its grasp and grant black people full human and civil rights. There had to have been a certain optimism in the tank for those things to go on in the late 50s, in the early 60s.
Yeah, but that's because we never been liberated. We talk as a group of people that's educated but not liberated. And George Washington didn't have that many educated people with him, a bunch of thugs, but they wanted to be liberated. And the song don't say, give me education or give me liberty or give me death.
But let's talk more about that dichotomy that you're pointing out between education and liberation. Yeah. A lot of the wise old heads who got all that stuff started said that the two went hand in hand. They wanted the HBCs filled with tomorrow's doctors and dentists and preachers.
A black PhD right now, driving down the street in Washington, D.C., with $1 billion in the bank, 5 PhDs, he hears a squad car, and he squeezed the steering wheel tight. Nobody tamed him, man. That's in his blood. And then when the car passed, he said, thank God, God had nothing to do with it. They wasn't after you in the first place. You have to look way into it, I missed it all coming up. My mother, gave me everything a child would want. See, when I was born, we didn't have welfare. Everything a child would want for Christmas. And they told me a white man brought it to me.
So we sit here, you and I, you're 81 years old, you've been a public person for most of that time.
Yes.
And you are not a liberated man?
Not at all. No, you can't get liberated with money. That comes from inside. They convinced me that all black women are ugly. They convinced black women that all black women are ugly. The only woman on the planet, a black American woman, go to a place called a beauty parlor. All the rest of them hair salons, beauty parlor. They teach me something's wrong with my hair. My hair didn't come from Sears and Roebuck. It came from the same God that put the universe together, and yet you hear black folks say, oh, she got good hair, she got bad hair. God in the business of making something bad?
But haven't we shaken some of that off? I don't hear people talk the way I did when I was a kid about good hair and bad hair.
When I was born, they was changing a black person dollar for 49 cents. Now they give me 98 cents. I don't want 98 cents for $1. I want a full dollar's change for $1, or this cash register will never ring again. You got black folks so ashamed of riot, they call it rebellion. It's not no damn rebellion. A rebellion ain't something you have after a cop shoots somebody. A rebellion is planned. You know the day it's going to start. This is a riot. In Chicago in 1968, it was a police riot. They didn't say police rebellion. A black father, I had 3 boys. I never taught them to behave when you run across an ignorant, racist cop that might kill you. Why? Anytime you teach your child to treat filth nasty, then they think something wrong with them. That's the game. I've never taught my children you have to be twice as smart as white people. See, children don't hear what you mean, they hear what you say. And when you tell them they got to be twice as smart, in their mind they think they dumb. That's how it works.
So we turn on the television, another story of a young fella being cut down on the street by a policeman. What's going on in Ferguson? You grew up in St. Louis and around there.
Well, I've always told people, if you ever go to St. Louis, you got to sit your watch back for 3 hours. That's how far back St. Louis is. I mean, here's a town that used to be mostly white, and now 70% black. White mayor, white police chief, anything important is white. Anything important is white. Police department with 53 blacks. So got to be something wrong before you got to that, you know. And now what I see is horrible coming out of there, because you wake up one morning and they tell you about this person has been shot. And you look at it, and then later the police chief showed the picture. He laid there for 4 hours, 4.5. Anytime there's a call that go out, shooting, cop, they don't know if the cop's in trouble. They sent all kind of equipment there. Nobody showed up. Nobody showed up. He lay there 4.5 hours. Then the cop just disappeared. Where he disappeared to, you know. The real black folks are saying, where'd they take him? Where'd they take him? Now, I can understand why you can't get a prosecutor to prosecute, because white prosecutors live in all white areas and they got to go get reelected every 4 years. They ain't about to go reelected every 4 years after putting a white cop in jail for killing a black.
No, but I don't want to miss this point, because I think a lot of Americans don't understand the lack of trust, the lack of credibility of institutions, day-to-day institutions.
Yeah.
And in years of working as a street reporter, I have had black people tell me they don't believe anything from the police crime lab, from the lips of the mayor, from the head of the school board. An alternate narrative comes from the street time and time again. Why?
One of the things I see different in this, and I've been in all of them, I got shot in Watts, is you got black folks now saying it's a conspiracy. What? Well, because the guy in New York, okay, right after the woman get beat up by the state trooper, so they never seen him come this close, so they think there's more to it than what it is.
Right now in Ferguson, there are people talking about recalling the mayor or replacing him in the next election, doing something about that 6%, 7% turnout among black folks in Ferguson. Is that part of the answer? It sounds like you have so little trust that even if they put in a new council, a new school board, a new mayor, that won't even be a help.
If the president of the United States go to New York tonight by himself, unannounced, he can't get a cab. Most powerful man in the world. Now, the problem with that, they had a black mayor. It didn't change. Didn't change. And it's simple to change. All you gotta do is put some decoy cops out there and a camera. And the minute that cab pass you and you see it, pull them over just like they do when they give you a speeding ticket and then suspend their license for 3 weeks. And you do it again forever. You don't have to go through no whole bunch of changes to do that. It's that simple.
But look at how far the conversation, what we think of as the conversation, has come since you got into the struggle. Aren't we better off as a country?
Not at all. Not at all. It's gone from physical to mental. It's a mental thing now. The South have always said they don't care how close I get. Well, you can't own me as a slave, and I'm not living in the same piece of land you live on, as long as you don't get too big. Up north, they say they don't care how big I get as long as I don't get too close. And that's there. I mean, my hero, number one, would be John Brown. Not Jesus, not all this other stuff, because John Brown got us sitting here now. He changed everything. With the greatest movement in the history of man is the abolitionary movement. Do you know black folk couldn't belong to it? Here's white folk gonna go out, kill for me, die for me. That was Frederick Douglass' biggest problem. He couldn't be part of the abolitionist movement because they say black folks are too childlike. Huh? That hasn't changed yet. Still the same.
So even Frederick Douglass, friend of some of the most prominent Americans of his day,
yeah.
a co-signatory of the Seneca Falls Declaration,
yes.
one of the most stirring writers of the second half
yeah.
of the 19th century.
Taught himself how to read when he got out of slavery. He couldn't belong. He couldn't belong. And the reason the whole thing changed is John Brown. December the 2nd, where I go now, is Charleston, Virginia. The tree that they hanged him is still there. I just go hug the tree. They tried him, sentenced him. And so on the 2nd, when they hanged him, I go to that courthouse right where he walked out of, walked to the street, turned left, walked 3 blocks, turn right, walk 3.5 blocks, and there's the tree, okay? And what did he say? He said, you got anything to say before we hang? Yeah. If what I'm hanging for had I done for rich white folks, I'd be your hero. But last night I talked to God. God told me to tell you, the Negro slave is gonna be free, but it's gonna be the biggest bloodbath in the history of the planet.
Well, he was right about that. Yet we don't teach much about John Brown. Whether we're teaching early history
yeah.
to white kids, black kids, brown kids, we don't talk as much about John Brown as we do about Frederick Douglass,
Yeah, sure.
Booker T. Washington, George
Yeah.
Washington Carver, Jackie Robinson,
Yeah.
Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman. He's pretty radioactive even now, even 150
Yeah,
years later.
Sure. Because it's like a relay. The same people that was doing it then is doing it now. Let me tell you how messed up this thing is, man. A white guy killed my Jesus, and they taught me to call it a good day. I call it Good Friday. Once they get your mind, man, once they turn that around, it's incredible.
Does the ability to make people laugh carry with it the ability to change the way people see the world and each other? You're watching Talk to Al Jazeera with Dick Gregory. Stay with us.
Only on Al Jazeera America.
I lived that character.
Go one-on-one with America's movers and shakers.
We will be able to see change.
Gripping, inspiring, entertaining. No topic off limits.
And I'm like, Dad, there are hookers in this house.
Exclusive conversations you won't find anywhere else.
These are very vivid human stories. If you have an agenda with people, you sometimes don't see the truth.
To watch new episodes of Talk to Al Jazeera, check your local listings or visit aljazeera.com.
I'm Ray Suarez, and this is Talk to Al Jazeera. My guest this week is civil rights activist and comedian Dick Gregory. None of what we've been talking about so far is very funny. Yet you were a comic for a long time,
Yes.
and using humor to try to get people to think about these contradictions.
No, don't do that to me.
Oh, what were you doing? You tell me then.
I would never believe you can change things through humor at all. I remember a New York Times reporter asked me in Chicago at a nightclub when I finished, how many of these white folk you think is laughing because they're guilty? You can ask them that. Being black, I know some black folks whiter than white folks are. You stop and think. When I go south, anytime I went south, I thought I could die. The fear, that's what fear do.
But when you're working the Playboy Club, which, let's
Yeah.
face it, most of the audience was white.
Yeah, all of it.
Because to be a key holder,
Yeah, sure.
you basically
That's
had to
right.
have some dough, and most people who had
Right,
it
yeah.
were white. If you tell a joke about segregation, if you tell a joke about people getting clubbed on the head by police, that's a moment where the person laughing may start laughing and then have an uncomfortable confrontation with themselves. It may not have...
I didn't go up there for that. You know,
You're
when
making a
America
living.
goes to war, they don't send no comics. They send some folks that barely can read and write. Right? When America decided they wanted to go to outer space, they didn't get some folks that love America. They got scientists. Scientists. And if this thing is to change, it had to be science. What have this done to your mind? I know who I'm dealing with. A white dude that his own wife, his mother, his daughter, his girlfriend didn't get the right to vote till 1921. If you do that to your mama, my mama better stay in the house. Legally, black folks had a right to vote before white women.
So if you weren't using humor in that way, why didn't you just keep it safe, keep it light? You didn't. You went to places that made people uncomfortable.
Yeah, but you must remember, I know who I am. Huh? I got 10 children. They tell me about Father's Day. I don't even celebrate it. Why? I never had an affair with my wife to create another God. I was just doing the do. But I never bought a car. I didn't know the year, the make, the model, the down payment, the insurance, the trade-in. When I got to look myself in the mirror, not sit across from a TV guy, when I look myself in the mirror and realize I put more planning in owning a car than creating God's new life. I'm just as filthy as the rest of them are. Anytime I get on a plane and fly to a peace rally, first class, that tax money go to make bombs and stuff they drop on little children. So when they fall on my grandchildren, hey, what took you so long? This is what this is about. Now, how did I get that way? I don't know. You know, I came up, didn't know where my father was, glad he wasn't home. You know, and we listened to all this crap about, there's no dad at home. Hitler had a mother and father at home. Look how he came out. This is a game they play, you know.
There came a point where you stopped doing stand-up. Why?
Oh, because of cigarettes. I used to smoke 4 packs of cigarettes a day, but I didn't want to bring people into an atmosphere to see me where they had to sit through cigarette smoke. And that's before I knew about the secondhand smoking. So I just quit. And after they.
So quitting one meant you had to quit the other?
No, because, you know, remember, I still think as a Negro, man, unshackled, unfree. You know, and I'm not going to let nobody make me a hero because they think I'm a hero. I live with me. I know who I am. I'll die for it. But there's certain things I won't do, and that was the money piece. I mean, I made more money at that time than most people, just second only to Frank Sinatra. But I spent it for the movement. When they cut the food stamps off in Mississippi, I carried 70 tons of food there every 2 weeks.
You make it sound straightforward and logical, but you walked away from the dough. You walked away from the applause. You walked away from whatever, the Ed Sullivan Show and all that stuff. You made a choice. You had to at some point say, this is more important to me than all the good things that have been dished out.
If you could feel your hair grow, you'd probably go crazy. Okay? You know. So I had a big farm, Rolls Royce. I lost all of it. Who cares? You know, I grew. It was the movement that changed me.
Okay, tell me how.
Well, as a child, I went to the movie because I just realized the hand I've been dealt in the St. Louis ghetto, that can't come from God. Something's wrong. You know, so I went to the movie and dream. I'd see Clark Gable, long black hair, and every time he'd say something to a woman, he'd shake his hair and flip it back. I damn near broke my neck one night sitting at home trying to flip a nap back, you know. And I said to me, long before I hit, that to be black in America, and you hit big with a job or money, you owe yourself X amount of treats just to unmess up your mind. So that's what I did. Before I hit big, I said this, when I realized it was going to be in entertainment. If I don't bring a woman into the nightclub, I'm not leaving with one, okay? That was the law here. And so I had certain things set up before it happened. I knew I was going somewhere. I didn't know if it was sports. I knew it wouldn't be sports. I knew it wouldn't be entertainment. I've been around entertainers in my life. And
wait. You said you knew it wouldn't be sports. You were a celebrated, admired track athlete.
Yeah.
That had a lot of future to it, and you walked away from that as well.
It probably made me. You know, we had dual school systems in St. Louis. Black school, white school. Black track meets, white track meet. So I went to the state black track meet and ran the mile faster than anybody that year on the planet. I didn't get credit for it because I was at the Negro meet. So what did I do? I go by the NAACP, Mr. Wheeler, and organize the march so when school opened up, we could beat him. He didn't know what I was marching for, you know. And so that day, it scared them white folks so bad. That's when I realized certain white men got power, you know. They arrested me, and I get home, 3 white men sitting in my house, and my mother all upset. And so that 3 days later, white boy, Hickey, superintendent of schools, made one call and told me, said, just a minute, 30 minutes, I think we can fix this. So he called, legislator, got on the phone, and integrated cross-country. Now, that September, fall, cross-country. I was the first black in the history of America to win a state cross-country championship. Now the spring is outdoor track, University of Missouri. A black couldn't go there. You couldn't stay in a hotel there. You couldn't eat there. So we drove up from St. Louis with 144 miles to Columbia, Missouri, and found out you couldn't stay in a hotel, you couldn't stay on campus. My points alone, we had become the state cross-country championship. But then you sit and you look and you look and you look, and if I had to say what turned me around, I was in the band, playing the bass drum. Bass drum, that's the heartbeat.
Looking back at a long life in the civil rights struggle, at long last, is Dick Gregory optimistic about the future? You're watching Talk to Al Jazeera. Stay with us.
I've been asked to keep my voice down because we are so close to the ISIL position.
Who is in charge? Are they going to be held to account?
Right now we're following the research team into the fire.
They are learning how to practice democracy.
Just seen tear gas being thrown.
Let somebody care about us, man.
Several UN workers were kidnapped.
This is what's left of the hospital.
It's a crime that's underreported.
What do you think killed them?
We're making history right now.
Al Jazeera America.
This is Talk to Al Jazeera. I'm Ray Suarez, speaking this week with Dick Gregory, activist, comedian. Dick Gregory, take us home. I mean, if people have watched this show from the beginning, they might be feeling pretty bleak about the future of the country. Do you?
And I've been nice. If my mother could hear some stuff I said, she'd call police on me. Those folks in that little town there outside of St. Louis, they see the cops talking to the prostitutes, they see them talking to the drug pushers, they see them talking to the bad guys. But they give them a slap upside the head, call them all kind of names and this and that. So you wonder, but it's like when you don't have the power to do anything about it. You don't have the power. They go to church every Sunday and pray and come out and let somebody misuse them. And so it will change. But you have to go in with big money and top minds that can go in and turn it around. If that happened, I don't believe, and if I did, I wouldn't say it, that we are beyond the point of no return, but we fastly getting there.
I want to bring up optimistic children, but realistic children.
Sure.
So you don't want to tell them the game's rigged and you already lost. So I've tried to temper realism with a belief in the future. It's a tough thing to do.
I try to temper that, knowing what's in your head, you know. You see, the one thing that President Obama should have taught black folks, you know, we were always told, behave yourself, get a good education. He went to the school the white boys go to. Never been to jail. Just as nice and kind, huh? They treat him as bad as they would treat a third grade dropout on death row waiting to be electrocuted. So that would say, don't believe what they're telling you, because it don't work.
So don't play it straight? Don't walk the straight and narrow? Don't be Barack Obama? Is that the bottom line?
No, I'm honest. You know, all my children have been successful, very successful, because I told them the truth. Education ain't nothing, huh? If you think there's a universal God that put the planet together and need a system who hate you to teach you something, then you're in trouble anyway. You know, I had a mother that couldn't come to my graduation because she didn't think her clothes was right and she didn't want to embarrass me. That's that feeling. And lastly, let me say this here. No group of people have ever then negatively go through what we go through, and them same white folks pick us to feed them, take care of their children. They see something in me, okay? But I never had that much faith in white folks. They hire nannies to change the baby diaper or walk their own dog and pick up the dogs. Something got to be wrong with that. You know, something got to be wrong.
Well, they get their exercise, but
Yeah, well, yeah. The only way to help us if somebody came from outer space and saw that, they would steal the dog because they think that's the one that had the power. You know? And black folks, you know, I wonder how many black folks really realize how black folks feel about white folks and their dog. Kiss them in the mouth, take them outside, the dog run across the street, kiss another dog in the butt, come back, they don't even wash it.
well, that's a whole other show.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. It was
Thank
fun.
you, brother. Thank you.